Well, the haters gonna hate, 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 and the faker's gonna fake, 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 baby. I'm just gonna making luck, a Dominion podcast. Welcome to Making Luck, a Dominion podcast. My name is Adam.
And I'm Jake.
This is Parker. And there's
right.
Jake. Hi.
Yeah.
Okay, calm down, buddy. Shh.
Wow, he actually listened.
He's working on it.
So when he doesn't listen to you, do you have like a water bottle you spray him with or something?
We do have a water bottle, but that's
Okay.
not for spraying him. That's for spraying his wipes. So, this is not going to be a normal episode of the podcast. As you can tell, I've been busy, and I don't know, what have you been doing, Jake?
Well, yeah, funny you should ask. I totally do have a life outside of the podcast and outside of Dominion. I haven't, there's a lot of stuff I've been doing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anything in particular?
It's best to leave it to the imagination, probably.
Oh, baby.
But
so you and the swashbuckler art have been getting along really good, huh?
yeah, man. Yeah, I'm definitely not just like Adam's alt. Like I exist independently of this podcast. Probably.
Yeah. There we go. Look at him. He's quiet alert now. Look at him. Isn't he adorable?
Probably.
This is
on?
Parker Horton. He's going to be the Dominion World Champion in 2035. Okay, you heard it here first.
Nice.
Hi, buddy. So,
It's a lot of
Jake
pressure.
has been. Yeah. Nah, I'll be fine. So Jake has been. He's been busy with the swashbuckler, and I've been busy spending a good chunk of time in the hospital, changing a lot of diapers, and taking care of this little guy. And so we're not recording a normal podcast this week. We have a Minisode for you.
Yeah. It's like a podcast in the same way that Parker is like Adam. It's just smaller.
Yeah. So it's like the same content, but there's no kingdom analysis at the beginning and end, and I'm not really able to interact with you guys the same way. Oh, let's see if that helps. It's not going to help. Okay. So, we hope you understand. Oh man, that thing's loud. We hope you understand.
The baby?
The baby.
Man, that thing is crazy.
I should probably go take care of that. Lexi's working on it. She's making sure he's okay.
Okay.
But anyway, thanks for your patience. And we have this Minisode. It's Advisor. It's us doing it this time. It's probably going to be a Minisode next week. That's going to be one of Wandering Winter's Minisodes, and we'll probably do an intro about that, giving you a little more detail next time.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah? Oh, look. Now that we're done recording, he's finally starting to calm down.
Well, now that just because this is a Minisode doesn't mean there can't be a mini raffle. So, what do you think would be a good prize?
The little stump of his umbilical cord fell off the other day?
Oh, okay. So we did part of Adam's computer one time. Now we'll do part of Adam's baby. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
You can have the rest of Parker's umbilical cord if you win the raffle.
Yeah, you definitely want this.
Yeah, it's it will keep you eternally young, probably.
It definitely is not disgusting.
Did you actually keep that?
No, I threw it away.
Okay.
It's disgusting.
Did they send you home with that, or what do they put it in a Tupperware container for you?
So I cut it off,
Okay.
and then it gets clamped, and there's the little part that gets clamped just kind of stays there, and you're supposed to just let it fall off. You're not supposed to take it off. You're just supposed to keep it dry, make sure it doesn't get infected, and then it falls off naturally after, in our case, it was a little over a week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Falls off of the baby?
Yes. And it's just kind of hanging there on his belly button, looking all disgusting for that week. Go check him, Lexi. What's going on, puppy? The dog is getting stressed because the child is stressed.
Yeah.
There's really nothing wrong with the child. He's just tired.
Same.
Yeah.
No.
There we go.
Parker gets me, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this this mini-sode.
Yeah,
this is my life. I haven't slept.
Yeah.
These are some serious problems that we're talking about here on Making Luck, a complaining podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to that, I guess.
Welcome to that thing.
Yeah.
It's a podcast about a card game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a mini-sode.
Yeah. So,
We're not doing a lot of stuff, but we're going to talk about Advisor.
Yes. So we went into like what this is earlier in an intro, which you've already heard. But
But we recorded it like 2 months ago.
yeah, so we're a little divorced from it. But yeah, we are, as Adam mentioned, talking about the card Advisor today. And it's going to be a shorter episode, but we still have some content to go into, definitely.
Yeah. So normally this is the part where we would read the text of Advisor, but I had to take this time introing that so that I could pull up the card image because I didn't have that. But
Yeah.
I've got it now.
Nice!
So Advisor is 4 cost actions from the Guild's expansion, and it gives you +1 action.
Nice.
Sweet. It also says reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. The player to your left chooses one of them, discard that card, and put the rest into your hand.
Yeah.
So,
So here's the thing. This is non-terminal draw. This is a draw that doesn't cost an action and increases your effective hand size because whatever cards are, they're either junk or they're cards that you can play. And you think about it and it costs less than 5. That's a big deal for a couple of reasons. One is that the average hand that most decks can produce any given time means that it'll probably be able to buy an Advisor unless it, hits 3 or whatever. But
hitting 3 sucks.
right, so like most, you can start getting Advisors right away, and also gainers can gain Advisors. So like it's a non-terminal draw that costs less than 5, which makes it unique. It also means that you could open with Advisor. You shouldn't do that.
Don't do that, please.
Right. You don't want to open with Advisor, and actually the why behind that is pretty key to understanding the function of the card. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about why you don't open with Advisor, because if you understand that, you're going to understand what you do with Advisor.
He said doo-doo.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you need to make Advisor good? Like, I mean, in its perfect case, I reveal 3 of the same card. I draw 2 of them, and I basically just played a lab, and lab cost more. So, woo, we did it.
Yeah, right.
So I guess the goal seems to be, let's get this as close to lab as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the idea is that you put 2 cards in your hand that make your turn better, and that's the perfect case. When you think about like how good a deck is and how good the turns it enables, we tend to think about how good the cards in the deck are, and that holds up in a lot of cases, but there's something that you need to think about when you're building your deck, and that's not just like how good the cards in your deck are, but also how evenly distributed the quality of those cards is. What I mean is, like, how big is the difference between your best and your worst cards?
Yeah, so like if I'm in the beginning of the game and I bought a card that's good, right? Mm-hmm. And I also bought an Advisor. So I'm just trying to think of the best possible card I could get for $3, and silver's coming my... So let's just say I bought a silver, right?
Yeah.
And like the whole reason you buy this silver is to have a better turn, right? To make a better life for you and your kingdom and your family.
Better shuffles going forward for the next generation.
And your Duchess.
Yeah.
And
the
her
Duchess's
kid.
Baby.
God, that kid is so creepy. But anyway, you want to, like... Why did you buy that card if you didn't want to play it? It's clearly the best card in your deck, except for maybe the Advisor, but that's not. So, like, you play the Advisor, and you're guaranteed not to draw that card.
Pretty much.
Any competent opponent is going to deny that card to you. And so this situation came about because we have one card in our deck that is just miles better than any other card in our deck.
Yeah.
Silver is just miles better
than copper,
and especially Estate.
So you think about distribution of card quality, just as one more example. Let's say you're playing a game of Dominion, and you and your opponent are both into it, and Donald X comes up behind both of you. And on the table in front of you, he puts 2 silvers in front of one player, and he puts a gold and a copper in front of the other player. And he says, all right, which one of you wants which? And you're like, Donald, we're in the middle of a game. Can we...
would you sign these cards?
No, but so like what you think about is like, would you rather have 2 silvers or would you have a gold and a copper? They're both 2 cards that give you 4 money, but like putting those 2 things into your deck do vastly different things for the expected value of your turns.
Well, I mean, maybe not vastly.
They can though. Like it means that like the 2 silvers is really good for hitting a certain price point really consistently, and then the gold and the copper is good for hitting something a bigger price point, enabling higher price points every now and then.
Spiky.
Right, spiking price points. And like the key takeaway isn't like take the silvers or take the gold or whatever. It's that you can't answer this just by itself in a vacuum. Distribution of card quality is important, and some cards care a lot about it.
Yeah, like if I'm able to trash that copper easily, then and let's say I also care about my money density, then if I take the gold and the copper and I just trash the copper and I don't care, well, now I have a big benefit over these 2 silvers that I just couldn't have done something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the other way around. Like maybe I care about having the smoothness of price points. Like maybe I'm going for something like Dutchy Duke.
Or you want to like buy all the Ironmongers or Caravans or whatever.
Like I would rather hit 5 and 6 than 4 and 7, for example.
Yeah.
If that's something that I care about, then the silvers are going to be a lot better for me.
Yeah. And also some cards have like a particular synergy with distribution of card quality. Like if you have a Cartographer in your deck, then the Cartographer's ability to just sift through all the coppers and get to the gold, or like you think about like maybe a secret passage or a dungeon or a warehouse that are really good at searching for a key card, those really like for you to have the quality of your cards being really centralized in 1 or 2 of them. Now, Advisor falls into this category too, of really caring about distribution of card quality, but in the opposite way of those examples. Advisor wants to be drawing cards for a deck that has really consistent, smooth distribution of quality. In other words, Advisor wants to have a lot of cards that are improving your turn and not very many cards that aren't really pulling their weight in your deck. Advisor doesn't want to be in a deck that has suboptimal cards in it.
Sure. So I think the main thing we take away from this is thinning is really good for Advisor, because
Absolutely.
I mean, you start the game with 10 bad cards. And if I'm playing Advisors, it's going to be unlikely that I don't see any of those 10 bad cards. I'm going to expect to see some of those 10 bad cards and then maybe mix in with some other really good cards.
Yeah.
And that's like the worst case for Advisor.
Yeah.
I'm just going to get the good cards denied, and Advisor drew me bad cards. I don't want that. I want good cards, not bad cards.
So that means like an Advisor being in your deck means that unlike other sources of draw, it's not enough to have a few good cards you want to be searching for and playing. Advisor wants to be in a deck that also doesn't have bad cards that you could draw instead, and that's really important to understand before you start putting them in the deck.
Right. I mean, I guess you could look at the other side of the situation and say, well, Adam, what if your cards were all bad? Advisor's still good. No.
No, it's not.
All your cards are bad.
You should improve your deck instead.
Get a silver, man.
Like a lot of the time, even when Advisor is the only draw, if there's no way to get rid of those cards that are bad in your deck, Advisor can still do more harm than good. Like if there's no way to be trashing coppers and estates, a lot of the time you're just better off flooding with silver, because you think about adding Advisors to that deck instead, there's a really good chance you draw the coppers instead of the silver that you bought, which is what you wanted to play. So there are definitely a lot of games where even when Advisor is the only draw, you just ignore it because it's of its downside.
So I mean, I'm not going to say that without trashing Advisor is not worth getting, but
it's a strong indicator.
It's really close to that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it.
Yeah. It's like
don't get Advisor if there's no trashing.
Yeah, and that's one of those things you're going to find examples where that's not true. Yes, but they're minority examples, and you being able to thin your deck is one of the first things you look for with Advisor, but also timing the Advisor buys. You don't want to put the Advisor into your deck before you've done that thinning, because Advisor used improperly can actually be really harmful to your shuffles. It's not just that you buy something and it doesn't help, it also can actively hurt you.
So I'm thinking about, let's say I want to open Advisor Chapel.
Yeah.
Right? And let's say that I'm really...
And that makes sense because, like, Chapel really likes to have a really big hand size, so, like, you could justify that mentally, but...
Well, I mean... First of all, Chapel can only trash 4 cards, so if I do collide them, and I manage to play my Chapel, the Advisor hasn't really helped me in this case. So, opening the Advisor with the Chapel isn't great. Now, it's true that Chapel is great at trashing your starting cards, which is exactly the kind of thing Advisor likes. So, Advisor's probably going to be good here. But but in the opening, it's really not going to be. And also, remember that best case scenario where I played my Advisor and I was also able to play my Chapel, and this didn't really help me. But this was the best case. And in any other cases, I think you're set up for complete and total disaster here.
Yeah, it's really likely that you play an Advisor and the Chapel gets revealed in one of those 3 Advisor cards, and then you don't get to play your Chapel that shuffle. And that is disaster. There is no other way to put it. Like, that puts you really far behind. So... you think about what the purpose of... We went into this in the cycling episode. You think about what the purpose of these card control resources is. You know, cycling is to play the cards you want to play more often. Draw is to have cards in your hand that you can play and be effective with. Advisor kind of does the opposite of that when it skips the card that you wanted to play that shuffle.
Yeah, so remember we defined cycling as just being able to play your best cards more often. And, like, yeah, draw is a form of cycling, because if you put all of your cards in your hand, you can play them. It's usually good for playing cards.
Yeah.
Just having them in your hand.
Time passes in shuffles, and if you cause that shuffle every turn with every card in your hand, time passes very quickly for you.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But also, like, so there's a point where Advisor as draw is helping you cycle. But there's also a point where Advisor is skipping the best cards from your deck, and now you're playing them much less often.
Yes.
So, like, there is a tipping point where Advisor turns from being a harmful force to a good force for your deck.
Yeah, and that force... That point has a lot to do with distribution of card quality, which is mostly affected by being able to thin out the bad cards, but also sheer quantity of being able to draw those cards helps too.
Yeah, so if Advisor is your only source of draw, then, you know, you can make it work if you can thin out the bad cards. Eventually, a lot of decks like to buy these really fancy cards called provinces.
Yeah.
Or maybe other cards that are green in color. And it turns out that these cards are usually bad and they don't do anything for you.
When you draw them, yes. They're good to have at the end of the game, they're bad to draw.
Yeah, they're also bad to reveal to your Advisor.
Yeah,
because then you're going to draw them.
Right.
And that's bad. So, like, even if you can thin out all of your starting cards and you have a great deck that works with Advisors, that deck is going to stall. It's going to come crashing down on you a lot more than other decks might.
Advisor in a bad situation is kind of like voluntarily taking a rabble attack, is how I think about it.
Yeah, it's like, basically the exact same thing.
Yeah, because, like, you know, you think about you discard the treasures and the actions and put the bad stuff back on top.
Yeah, so...
it's kind of what the Advisor did, too.
You could just call it Rabvisor?
Rabvisor, yeah.
Yeah. So this episode is about Rabvisor.
Yes.
It's a $4.5 card from the Guildsparity expansion.
Right.
And it reads... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But so anyway, the point is, if Advisor is your only source of draw, you still have to deal with the badness of Advisor on both ends. Like, if the game of Dominion you're playing was like a sandwich...
Yeah.
Advisor's really only good for the meat of that sandwich in the mid game.
Yeah.
In the beginning, you have your starting cards. In the end, you have your ending cards. And in the middle, you have your meaty cards. With a delicious jus gravy.
Yeah, it's really good for that phase where you're not quite to the point where you're getting control of your deck, because Advisor doesn't help you do that, and you're not quite to the point where you're winning the game with your deck, because Advisor helps more with that, but, it can reveal the green cards if you're scoring gradually. But Advisor's really good in the phase where you're building up your deck and trying to make these turns as good as you can make them.
So a lot of that situation I was talking about is predicated on Advisor being the only source of draw. And so it stands to reason that Advisor does have synergy with other sources of draw.
Yeah.
And when I say other sources of draw, I think I want to be a little bit more specific here. Because normally when I say draw, I'm talking about increasing the number of cards in your hand. I think any other source of plus card is usually going to be good here. So I'm going to include cantrips in this discussion.
Sure.
If I play an Advisor and I reveal 3 cantrips, that's great!
Right.
A+. Like, cantrips are really great because they're sort of shrouding in mystery what card your opponent could deny you. It's kind of like if I have a hand of 5 cantrips and I get hit by a militia, that sucks.
Because it's like, what exactly do you discard? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you discard 2 cantrips, but then you draw 3 cards, and you're not getting the best 3 out of 5. You're just getting 3 plus the effect of the cantrips.
Right,
that feels bad.
That's the opposite situation in Advisor, which is inversely good.
Right, you're doing that to your opponent, effectively. So playing an Advisor is just like playing a militia on your opponent.
Yeah.
So Advisor is a 4-cost action from the base guild's expansion.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Advlicia? Yeah, Advlicia is a 4-cost base guild's expansion.
Yeah.
It gives you $1.50,
Okay.
a half an action. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. That is a good way, not that stuff, but that is a
What are you talking
that is a
about?
good way to think about it, is that the Advisor really synergizes with other sources of plus cards. One of the points that Wandering Winder made when we were discussing this episode is that if you have actual laboratories in your deck, then an Advisor isn't that much worse than just a cheaper laboratory. Because if it drew you 2 cards and you were going to... Specifically, if you're drawing your deck anyway, the Advisor actually is just a cheaper lab, and that's when we get to the best case scenario for the card.
Yeah, and it costs 4 instead of 5, which means, as we mentioned, is OP.
Yeah, it means you can get them pretty much every turn, and it means you can use gainers to acquire them.
It's the same reason why Smithy is OP.
Right, exactly.
Hashtag Smithy OP, hashtag please Donald, nerf Smithy,
Nerf Smithy,
please.
yeah.
Hashtag nerf Smithy 2018. So yeah, there was that particular case. But then there's another way we can look at this synergy, quote, synergy, between Advisor and draw. So, like, that goes back to the real definition of draw that I had, where it's a combination of cards that allows you to increase your hand size. And so that's meant to include stuff like Village and Smithy.
Yeah.
The 2 of them together are a draw, but each of them on their own doesn't accomplish the objective. So Advisor synergy with that is a little bit more complicated.
Yes.
Because in theory, your opponent can just deny all your villages if they see them, and just really deny the villages and stick you with a bunch of Smithies.
Yeah, they have to know what's in your hand at that point, but sure.
Well, I mean, they don't.
Right.
What they can do is they can just figure out which one is more scarce in your deck.
Yeah, sure.
So if I'm tight on villages, or I'm tight on Smithies, or I'm not tight on one of them, then they can just poke at the sore spot over and over again and hope that it does bad things for you.
And it,
and sometimes it will.
Yeah.
And so you need to either build your deck a little differently to compensate, or you might be able to use a little bit of misdirection if you're playing with physical cards. If they deny your village, you can just say under your breath to yourself, yes, and act like you were happy about it when maybe you weren't. And then next time,
well, you can type that in chat too.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So this is part of Making Luck,
a misdirection podcast,
a metagame podcast.
Oh, yeah. Dominion does have a meta.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying.
We did it.
The Dominion meta.
Actually, I'm not making this up. In 2011, when I first got into Dominion, I was looking around YouTube for videos, and like there was like Wandering Winder had a few videos, but like no one really did this. And so the result I got was a guy who had just won his local board game store's tournament.
Yes.
And, like, this was only a couple expansions are out, and so they interviewed him on video and uploaded it. And they asked him what his strategy was, and he's like, well, I saw Great Hall Conspirator on the board, and I knew that if a bunch of people went for that, because it was a 4-player game, if a bunch of people went for Great Hall Conspirator, then it wouldn't be very good. So I sat there talking up how good Great Hall Conspirator was, and I displayed big money, and I won the game. And they all went for Great Hall Conspirator. I remember because he said Great Hall Conspirator like that,
right.
and I'm like, really?
Yeah. So...
Metagame.
Yeah, I don't understand what people mean when they talk about Dominion having a meta. Like, I've played a lot of
Meta stands for most effective tactic available. It just means do something good. Kind of like Engine.
Yeah, no, right? Yeah, like, that's actually... I mean, we're getting on a tangent here, but, you know, what else are you here for if not the tangents?
Making Luck, a tangent podcast.
Yeah, like, I've been active in a lot of gaming communities that are... you know, getting towards the competitive nature of the game that, you know, you talk about where a meta makes sense. And X-Wing and Netrunner are the big ones that come to mind that I've been involved in. And those have pre-game decisions that you make.
Right, yeah.
And so there's actually a game within the game of building a versatile deck versus a specifically effective one. I don't understand how that applies to Dominion in any way, shape, or form, but, you know, that's...
You can just run the simulator on a board before your first turn and see what...
Yeah, there we go. So, okay.
Back to Advisor.
Why did we feel the need to do this episode on Advisor? And I think that gets at what I feel the most valid takeaway from Advisor is, and that is the timing of when to put them into your deck. I see a lot of people try to go for this strategy where they understand that eventually the advisors are going to be good if you're drawing all or most of your deck. And then you get to a tipping point at a certain point where you have so many advisors that you're drawing so much of your deck that the advisor isn't much worse than Lab. That takes a really long time if advisor is your only draw. And it's super slow, and it's almost always one of the worst ways and slowest ways to build your deck. You really need some other source of draw to be sprinkling in with the advisors to make that good, or you just need to thin your deck first so that the advisors can't be drawing junk for you.
Yeah. If I mean, these just demonstrate the abstract principles that we've been talking about this episode. Distribution of card quality.
Yeah.
Don't open with it.
Right. Don't open with advisor.
Yeah.
If you take nothing else from this, please don't open with advisor.
Don't even summon it. Just don't.
Yeah.
Please. Please don't.
Yes. I got nothing else, honestly. That's about
all I have to say. Lexi's here. Normally we kick her out of the studio when we record the podcast, but she wanted to come down, and so here she is. She says hi. But in any case, thanks for your patience. I realize that Minisodes may not be the highest form of content that we have here on Making Luck, but...
Right. Did the musical theater to our actual theater.
I'm sorry. What did you just say?
I said that so Adam would get all right.
We're going to have a talk about this.
Well, they're a lower form of entertainment, is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Musical theater versus, actual dramatic theater.
What? That's just really far from being true.
Thank you for listening to Making Luck, a Dominion podcast.
All right, now let's talk about musical theater.
So, worth noting that this latte came from the Kitty Brew Cafe, which is a cafe where you can go hang out with adoptable cats. And Adam's wife is a big fan of it. The thing is that you have to pay per hour that you're hanging out with the cats. And so Adam got a receipt on the way here for an hour of his wife and my girlfriend playing with the cats.
The receipt was only for my wife.
Oh, so it's per person, yeah. So it's like $11 an hour to play with the cats. I was just thinking, like, man, these cats are making more than a lot of my friends per hour. Like, these cats are doing pretty well.
Yeah, it was $10.70 for 1 hour.
Yeah, these cats are making well above minimum wage.
And if they don't really feel like playing or being out, they can just like hide in a corner. It's fine.
I can't do that at my job.
Yeah, like what? That's not cool.
Yeah.
I wanna do that.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Parker. I hadn't really thought of it that way. But now that you mention it, that's worth considering too.